And we are back. Rory Sauter in the news, coming to you live from Palm Springs, California. I do want to introduce my next guest who's with us right now. We have Peter Boykin. Peter, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing very well, man. Good to see you. I think I had you on, but it's been a while. It's been a few years, right?
Yeah, I think a long time.
Yeah, long time. So what's been going on, man? What's new? I heard you're running for office. Give us the rundown. Give us the scoop. All that good stuff, man. And give us a bio, too, again. I know you're doing a lot of political stuff. I know you're staying busy. And, yeah, man.
Currently, I'm running for lieutenant governor in North Carolina, a field of 11 or 12 of our individuals. I ran a couple of years ago in the last midterm, but I wanted to run for U.S. Congress, but they can't. We have a big issue here with maps and the changing of maps and complaining. So they changed everything at the last minute. I ran for a local office, but honestly, I just became the Ross Perot in that office to get the older guy who'd been in there for 10 years and actually did a great job to get him boosted back in. I didn't expect to. I fell on the sword basically so he could win.
And lately, how is the campaign going? Are you doing a lot of events? Are you out there talking to supporters? What's the feedback you're getting? Any polls?
Very grassroots, very grassroots. Nobody has any money to donate. I'm not really running around asking people for money. I didn't spend the summertime really going around to the GOP type events. Honestly, the GOP is maybe 10,000 people out of millions who are registered. So you're kind of cycling your heels when everybody else, and when you got 10 other candidates or 5 other candidates going there, you're just all competing for the same 10,000 votes. And I spent a lot more time trying to prep and getting more social media and more videos out, getting that viral part out, which that reaches the larger base than going to individual clubs. And when you're grassroots, everything costs money to drive around the city. This is a big state, so now that everything's official, yeah, there's a lot of places reaching out, doing forums, doing debates, and I will be doing that tour to the places that invite us, which I think is now more crucial. But at the same time, I'll spend days, putting out little cards on people's doors, making sure I get my signs out. So I'll be making full days of it.
And you know a lot about marketing. You've been doing your own content for a while, right? Like I feel like you've been very active in that space. I mean, you've been doing different footage and different clips, I feel like, for years.
Yeah, since 2015, I've been very active making podcasts and doing videos. Before then, before I just when Donald Trump decided to run for office, that's when, kicked it into gear again. The last time I'd done anything was during the McCain versus Obama.
Wow.
Where people and I'm gonna state, back then we didn't know about Hillary and how bad she was, and then you thought about good presidents, and I thought Bill Clinton worked with the Newt Gingrich, Conscience of America. He definitely had some issues, personal issues. Right. We didn't know how bad Hillary was, and so some of us supported Hillary Clinton. I was not a Democrat, but that's when you started realizing the Obama crew started attacking the Hillary crew, and then they started saying, "Oh, you're racist for not voting for Obama." I was like, well, the fact that he's black is actually a pretty decent thing. You got a woman versus a black man. So they started treating people like dirt, and that's when your first walkaway type people decided, those ones that were in the Democrat Party, they quit the Democrat Party because they realized and opened up their eyes that this party literally will kick you out if you think differently or you have a different candidate. And they mass exodus. And we created a group called Clintons for McCain, former Clinton supporters who now like McCain and Palin because we saw the light. I've never been a registered Democrat. I've always kind of mixtured with my votes.
Right, me too.
I kept that, and I registered as a Republican when Donald Trump ran for office because I said, you know what, the Republican Party has some hope. They're picking the right type of people. There's a lot of people running the unaffiliated now because Donald Trump's the only thing really holding our party still really good, like glue. Unfortunately, the extreme social conservatism wing of the Republican Party has kicked in. And I've stated it multiple times. I think they're just as extreme as radical liberals. That the only way that this country survives is through being a constitutionalist, being more of a moderate. Now, I'm not talking about a rhino. I think rhino is an overused word, honestly. Rhino is, oh, you disagree with me in the Republican Party, you're rhino. Oh, you disagree. We all end up calling each other rhinos after a while, which is ridiculous. We have a guy who's a senator here. His name is Tom Tillis.
Mm-hmm.
Gets voted. People go, oh, he's a traitor. He's a rhino. Well, he doesn't always see eye to eye with Donald Trump, but he was the senator who right away, after Colorado, he right away started working on legislation to make sure that they could not use that 14th Amendment the way they were bending it, to literally make sure that they cannot pick people off the ballot. He's the one actually defending Donald Trump's on the ballot, yet some people will still call him a rhino, which is ridiculous, or a traitor. But you have, 750 of the 10,000 people here who decided that North Carolina's GOP should censor our senator. What good is that going to do in the next election he gets reelected? So are you basically saying that you want a Democrat instead? So truly, who is the rhino? Who is the one that wants to get rid of the sitting Republican who might not see eye to eye on everything? Ronald Reagan always said 80-20. 80% my friend, 20% my foe does not make you my enemy. So we're not going to agree. And there's plenty of people in North Carolina personally here I will not agree with on everything. I don't agree with the whole Republican platform on every degree. And they always bring that up. But I let them know I'm not a rhino. I'm never going to be a Democrat. But there are days that sometimes where you feel like you're too right to be left and you're too left to be right. But the only way our country is going to survive is through moderation. And I always say, as a constitutionalist, our Constitution was founded by many different people of different religions, of different beliefs and structures, and it was compromise, that moderation that built our Constitution. And it's the only thing that's keeping our country afloat. Honestly, when people talk of civil war, I'm like, do you understand what that means? Do you want brother versus brother and sister versus sister killing each other in the streets? You really think that's going to fix America? Or is that what all the other countries do, where they go take to the streets and kill each other? So, no, we're not trying to start a civil war. I don't think that's the answer. I think the answer is we need to start listening to each other. We need to start concentrating on real issues, because my campaign's all about infrastructure, jobs, and education, period. I don't worry about people calling stuff woke. I think that's another overused word. It's all about taking care of what individuals need, because we're struggling. Everybody's struggling in North Carolina and America under Bidenomics or whatever. Economy, bad economy. People have been talking about it for as long as I've been alive. But at the end of the day, we've got to start putting America first. We got to start taking care of every single person on this planet, or whatever, in the United States especially. We're not doing it by dying on the heel with woke, anti this and anti that, and alienating our youth. And sorry, I'm rambling.
No, but I agree with everything you just said, but how would you describe the state of North Carolina politically? Purple? If you had to give it a color?
Very.
Because it's not. I feel like it's not blue. It's not red. I would say purple.
We have. When you look at the voting records, you have more Democrats that are registered as Republicans, but right. You have way more unaffiliated voters who are beating the Republicans and the Democrats. Right. And I think that my fellow Republicans are still denying that fact. I love our North Carolina chairman. He's a wonderful guy, but from what was said is he's told people that a lot of people unaffiliated are people who just moved here, are Democrats who left. And I'm like, dude, you really need to understand that the amount of Republicans leaving the Republican Party because they're tired of being extreme on one side, becoming unaffiliated. They're not Democrats. They're still at heart Republicans. But I feel like, they're probably the Republican type person that I am. I'm a constitutionalist. I believe in the party of Lincoln. I believe in the party that, worked toward freeing black people, that worked toward giving the right to vote for women, that worked for immigrant rights and giving them, because back then they knew how to do immigration properly, giving them the right to be an American citizen. These are all issues that I question now because, Martin Luther King Jr., he was a Republican. They don't want you to know that, but he's a Republican. And he marched down the streets for civil rights. And I worry nowadays, will my fellow Republicans, would they consider that being woke? Civil rights being woke? I question that. What things now considered woke, which is truly what a Republican's supposed to be about. We were the party. The first black elected official was a Republican. He was a senator. I urge people to go to Washington, D.C., go see the Constitution, go see the Bill of Rights, but also spend some time downstairs and circle the information downstairs and realize what we the people means. That we knew we were not a perfect union when we started. But our founders knew that we had slaves back then, but they truly meant we the people. But they knew at that time it wasn't possible, that it was going to take time. And if you follow around, you'll see the black freedom and the civil rights, and then you move over to the women's liberation, and then you move over to the immigrants' rights, and probably the next wing would probably be the LGBT as well. But at the end, we the people means all the people. That's why my motto basically is all votes matter.
And are there more Democrats becoming Republicans or more Republicans becoming Democrats in North Carolina?
I think, well, from what I've heard is a lot of people are still registered as Democrat, but they still vote Republican in the main primary. Well, not in the primary, but in the general. That a lot of people are afraid to change. Like, there's a lot of older people who probably, like, because Democrats back in the old days was more like a Republican now, like a sensible Republican now. And they're just used to having that on the rolls. And the fact that you can search somebody's record, you can see if they're a Republican or Democrat. And I know as a Republican, ever since I've been a registered Republican, it's cost me jobs. Having a Trump sticker or just somebody finding out that I'm an activist or I'm a Republican, I've lost jobs. I cannot get a job in the degrees that I have. I have 2 master's degrees in IT, and this is an IT heaven, here in North Carolina. But when the HR departments are ran by, radical Trump syndrome, Democrats or whatever, or liberals, they're not going to hire me. They're going to Google search me and go, hell no, and I can't get a job in the field. So I found other ways to make money the way I, legally, with jobs that I can do. But I know that, running for office is kind of what I'm going to have to do because I'm an activist.
So were you told that was the reason why, because of your political beliefs, or what makes you think that?
They won't really tell you that, but I did have one job that I worked there for about 4 days, and on the Friday, and I was driving down the highway, and I couldn't hear very well. The recruiting company called, and I swear that the lady on the phone said that they did not want me back because of my politics. They didn't like my politics. And I wish I was recording that at the time. But in fact, they were going to offer me $1,000 settlement to, drop because they knew what they did wrong. I had to wait a year through because of our unemployment process here, which is really messed up. I had to wait a year through so-called litigation and back and forth because of COVID and all that for them to come back and say, yes, you could sue the company who let you go. Problem is, they only gave me 30 days to find a lawyer, and then it's impossible to find an employment lawyer that will actually stick by you. And, I could have had a lawsuit if I had the right money, money and lawsuit. The system's not set up properly for that. So really, that's another problem. That's when I say education, infrastructure, jobs here in North Carolina. Our unemployment agency really has some issues. It was the worst in the nation getting relief to people who were unemployed. A lot of people, they're coming back and say they overpaid them, trying to get money out of turnips, blood out of turnips because people don't have the money. You had here in North Carolina and other states where people got their rent paid for, and because of the rush, now they're trying to come back and say, "Oh, we overpaid. Give us money." There's an individual here. Her husband, who was retired, who was 80 years old, found out that they were getting paid too much pension and $200,000 over the years more, and then all of a sudden they requested it and gave him nothing. The guy went back to work for 2 more years and died, and got left with barely got the funeral paid. The state's made problems, made mistakes. I feel like they should eat those mistakes when they do that. You overpay people over years. You can't sit there and think that we're got the money to pay it back. It's the same thing. I argue with people about school loans. A lot of Republicans think, oh, well, you got the bill, you need to pay the bill. But I tell people, you need to understand that things are different than when you were paying your bill, when you went to college. Like my parents' era, just one generation, behind us. You went to school, you went to college, you got a great job, you stayed there for probably life, you retired, you got your gold watch, you got a retirement. That doesn't happen no more. Look at how many times the streaming softwares are always changing hands back and forth. Companies are switching hands, I've seen jokes where it says, what's the name of our company today? Where I'm working for. There's no loyalty to the employers to the employee. And then I found out that millennials have actually stepped in on that, and they don't have no loyalty to the companies. So they're hopping around. Our whole system is whack. It doesn't help that we also have an influx of individuals trying to seek asylum, in our country, coming over here trying to get the jobs that we don't already have. Meanwhile, you've got other countries, taking jobs. We're in a bad mess. America is in a bad mess. And like Donald Trump said, it would be okay if we were trillions of dollars in debt, if the streets were lined in gold and everything was brand new and it was just like going to Dubai and some of these other places he's went to. But literally, people fly here from other countries. They go to Washington, D.C. They see graffiti and trash and homeless people and a mess, a road that's, infrastructure is crap in our nation's capital. And they're like, what the hell's going on? And then, the vultures all over the world are swooping in on America. So it's time that we need to start putting our country first. We're worried about other places, Ukraine. We're worried about, I love Israel. That's a good place too. But we gotta be careful how much we spend there as well. But we should protect them. We've got to figure out something. At least I know with Israel that we're getting some mutual things back. Ukraine, I don't know. You got the leader over there who's probably buying his next yacht. How does this guy end up in award shows and everything? Where's the ticket? Where's the receipts? Because we're supposed to be fighting Russia. But at the end of the day, we're getting weaker. We're sending our troops over there, our military supplies, our surplus. And meanwhile, our country's getting weaker while we're trying to build up another country. That's not going to work. That doesn't help. We need to start taking care of ourselves. It's the analogy of you're in an airplane and the airplane's going down and the oxygen mask drops. You're supposed to put it on your face first before you help anybody else. And we're not doing that. We're running around the plane gasping for air trying to put masks on everybody else and forgetting about breathing ourselves, we're going to be the ones dead and everybody else is going to be trampling on our grave to get off the plane.
Right. And don't you think the Republican Party, the reason they're so behind on the times and they're failing miserably is because they don't have present day ideas. They're so, like I said, they're stuck in their ways. They're living in the past. They're not on board with what's currently going on, with what people really want. Your thoughts on this, because you're running for office.
Well, here's an example. This would be taboo, but I'll talk about it. Currently in the news, we've got new laws that just passed. And in the quickness, because we have a supermajority Republican, and I'm going to tell you the truth is, again, goes with compromise and our full government of different people talking. I don't believe in super majorities. I don't think the Democrats should ever have a supermajority. I don't think the Republicans should have a supermajority. I think our legislature should be set up that there's no such thing as a supermajority. That we have to figure out something where it's even if one's more than the other, it's got to be even, because there's got to be discussion. You can't shut out the citizens from actively discussing about things. But because you don't have discussion, you get bills passed who don't work all the way. One bill earlier was passed is, of course, I don't want underage people getting, like hormones and things to transition when they don't need them for actual real medical reasons. But then I have a friend who has a medical problem, who has to take some estrogen. He's not trans, who at first, because they weren't sure about the law, wasn't able to get the life-saving medicine that he needed, not to transition, but actual life-saving medicine that he needed, because he's got all sorts of stuff going on, for about 2 months. And finally, they were evening out, and he's able to get his medicine back again because the bills were unclear. Today, new bills went in. Again, this was to protect people that if you wanted to get into an adult porn site or whatever it is, you have to provide an ID. Well, because it was haphazardly written and there's really no way do you provide a ID all this time, blah, blah, blah. Well, some of the websites are like, what the hell do we do? So the news today is that Pornhub has now restricted all of North Carolina from being able to log into their website. So if you're North Carolina, they've basically said, since they believe that they should do it a different way, that the legislator jumped the gun. They didn't complain about the Republicans. They just said that, when you have legislatures who aren't very, knowledgeable about technology and who hasn't questioned the market, and they also completely understood that, yes, you want to restrict underage children, that they do everything they can in their power to keep underage people from seeing their items. But because of all this mess, they decided to just cut the whole state of North Carolina off. So, apparently, if you go to the website, they made a video, they hold a whole statement there. And so that's just one website. I mean, that's one website. But let's say Facebook decides to cut people off, or YouTube decides to cut people off, or Twitch decides to cut people off, or any of those other websites. Next thing you know, in North Carolina, because of that one law that wasn't correctly, vetted and written properly, because you have a supermajority, now you have all these. We could end up with no internet in North Carolina, or the television companies can say, "Well, we can't take an ID." They have to think about putting these laws in. And if you're going to complain as a Republican that the Democrats, when they're at a supermajority, are doing crazy things and letting everything go wild, then you need to understand, when you're in the supermajority, you're not any better when you're doing the same thing. And that's the biggest issue that I see in North Carolina. Now, in my office, Lieutenant Governor, I'm kind of a legislator and executive branch, but the way that they have the Lieutenant Governor set up, which is separate than the governor, is we don't really have a lot of power at all. They might have a tiebreaker, but a supermajority, we won't really do the tiebreaker. We are the president of the Senate, sort of like the vice president of the United States. We can preside over that. But our biggest power is the gift of gab, the gift of listening to the citizens, and basically trying to champion causes and getting the word out. I'm loud. I'm a loud person. I'm an activist. I'm a type of person, but I've also have all the skills that I could be a governor if needed. I've been a manager. I've managed and opened many movie theaters. I also was a engagement manager for about 12 years with a um, technically in-source, outsource, international, India-based company. There, I ran multiple multi-million dollar service desks with multiple teams, Indian teams. I was the middleman. It from of it, I had my managers, the employees, the Indian-based companies, then our bosses, then who our contractors were, and I worked between all of those people who all had different goals, and we got stuff done. I saved people's jobs. I wrote processes. I got people on processes. I audited calls. I audited people. I did scheduling. I did you know, corporate training. So I have that skills, and I have worked multiple customer service type jobs throughout the years. My youth, I worked with my dad. We sold baseball cards and toys and things throughout my youth. So I have that entrepreneurial spirit, but I also know how to deal customer service and listening to people. And that's what I bring to the table is that I don't care what political party you are. I don't care about your specific, beliefs on different things, your religious beliefs or anything. At the end of the day, you come with me with a problem that I believe that affects everybody. We're going to try to find a way to solve it. So that's my job. Would be my job as lieutenant governor. I'm not a lieutenant governor for just the Republicans or the Democrats or the in between. I'm the lieutenant governor for the whole state and all the citizens of North Carolina, which I wish a lot of other politicians would understand that they're elected as a representative of all the citizens, not just a representative of their political party.
And what are your top 3 priorities on day one?
It's all for me is jobs, education, and uh, infrastructure. Everything on day one is geared towards that. But really, it's just basically to continue like the town hall type thing. Probably to continue to, because you've pretty much can write your itinerary of what you're going to do. Um, that job is kind of interpreted by who takes the office. And for me, I think I would travel around North Carolina, speak at city council meetings and city meetings, and listen into people's issues. If you get there and you sit in the audience, you can find out what's going on in those cities because those citizens come. I could say, hey, do you want to like talk? Afterwards, what can I do? How can I connect you to services? Like the easiest one in North Carolina that people don't know is, hey, my street light's out. What do I do? Well, the city doesn't come and fix it. Well, the city doesn't normally handle that. It's Duke Power. And you actually can go to a website and you can find your street light and click the street light and tell them that it's out and they'll come and repair it. And people got to remember that the city doesn't really drive around at nighttime, so how do they know the light's not working? So it's that kind of stuff, connecting people with the right things, and that's what I did a lot of times in my job as management. I did IT security type, and hold on one second.
What happened?
Oh, somebody's trying to call. But I did a lot of getting interrupted. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I did a lot of like IT corporate training, and I'm not an expert of everything. You can't be an expert of everything. but I was really good at figuring out who was the expert, the SME, and trying to get them to the right people. So I'd have a lot of agents that would come up to me and go, I don't know this. Instead of me being the manager, like, I have no clue what you're talking about. It's like, it's more like I'd ask them the process. Did you do this? Did you look into the book? Did you follow this document? Did you do this? The reasoning. Okay, well, what's exactly going on? I would ask them questions. And a lot of times they'd end up either figuring it out for themselves because they would just go through the reasoning process, or it turns out that, okay, well, you need to see this person, and I'd take them to the right person to get them where they need to go. So I would address the issue at the end of the day, because that's another issue. A lot of citizens and everything think your congressperson or your senator or your president or et cetera, is supposed to know everything. It's when I first, like, here's an example. When I first announced I was going to run for lieutenant governor, somebody reached out to me and said, what would your budget be for North Carolina? I was like, well, first, it's not my job if I become a lieutenant governor. That's the governor's job. Second, since I'm not in the office, I would have no clue. I don't know what they spend and what they don't spend. And third is, when you take office as governor, you have a group of individuals that do know, that work together with you to work towards a budget. It's not like the governor just sits down and starts writing down stuff. I mean, there's actual people in the background. Right. And that's another issue. A lot of people are armchair. Oh, if I was, if I was president, I'd do this, or that's where they're doing this, and this congressperson do that. But until you take the job, and this is
in there, until they get in there.
Yeah, any job. I mean, I had a job where I was supposed to be the ServiceNow manager for the team. Turned out I took the job. One, I ended up not being a manager, just a regular team. Right. Two, we barely use ServiceNow. So I'm like, what the hell? It's like, so I'm like, whatever, I did the job, but it wasn't exactly how the title was. You don't know what the job is until you take the job. Even Trump made the mistake, because I think he said beforehand, why is this president always playing golf all the time? I wouldn't play as much golf when and Donald Trump ended up playing just as much golf, because you realize that on the golf course is probably the only damn time you actually get any privacy. True. That you can get away from the press and actually have conversations with people without somebody probably recording it. So I think you learn that, when you play golf. And of course he's going to play golf. He's got a club that has a golf club. It's that armchair. It's that armchair kind of where you think you know the job until you know the job.
Right. No, absolutely. And I definitely want to get you back here soon. I could talk to you all day, but before I let you go, you and me are both in the tech realm. What do you see as the future of AI? The way it's going to take over the political atmosphere, the way it's going to take over the entertainment industry, the way it's going to take over the workforce. It seems like it's going to take over every walk of life. And I think it's going to interfere in our elections. I think it's endless what this is going to do.
It's kind of hard to note. Right now, I use AI myself to help with, with semi-speech writing, some of the articles, for my website, but it's still, I have to input a lot of the data. I still have to come up with the creative information. So I type out things that I would normally type out, and then I would say, hey, ChatGPT, rewrite this to sound a little bit better, look for grammar mistakes or whatever, and it would spit out something that I would like, oh, okay, well, this is a better way of saying it, but it's still what I would have said, just in a different kind of voice. Some people have seen, well, hey, you sound like your ChatGPT, but there's a lot of editing behind it. It saves some time, but at the current moment, it's only really saving some time. But people need to understand, you can't just say, hey, ChatGPT, write me a 50-page novel or 500-page novel. It's not going to do that.
Eventually, though, it will get to that point.
Yeah, but it's all going to take our knowledge. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like it's an artificial intelligence. It's like our knowledge. Everything that
You know
we
what is
know.
fascinating though? It is passing the bar exam. It is passing the doctor exam.
Oh
Like
yeah,
the fact that it can pull that off, that's mind blowing to me.
but the thing is that it still misses the spark that like as much book knowledge you see in the shows where somebody who's got more knowledge. I think it was the Star Trek Picard lately. You got Beverly Crusher. She's been on the field for all this time, and there's somebody that's hurt, and she hasn't done doctoring for a long time, and then somebody's there, and she's like, "Hold on," and she's like, "Well, I'm doing the medical procedure. The person's going to die." Blah blah blah, and she's like, "Wait a minute." And she knew something that the computer system didn't know, that the knowledge didn't know. So you miss out on that. You can use it as a aid or a tool for a lot of things, but it's not going to replace humans, the human touch. Like you can only put so many computers out there to move equipment and stuff like that, but you still need a human to do certain things. It's work in the job force. Yeah, I can see a lot of change. A lot of the you've seen less industry. Less more bots in the industry, but they still fail. So you wonder, it's like other jobs replace. You're gonna have to have a programmer. You're gonna have to have somebody oils that. You're gonna have somebody that has the place. So how much is it really going to change, or is it going to develop to more jobs or different types of jobs? But then at the same time, our human existence is supposed to be an existence where we're supposed to make it easier for us over time. We're no longer the hunter gatherer. We're no longer ones where we had to work every single day, from dusk to dawn to make sure we had food. We moved to a 40-hour work week. Now we've probably moved to a point where we can probably do 20 hours of work. I think that we need to get to a point where we can figure out a way that people can be provided for basic, at least basic stuff. I say we're a first world nation. There's no excuse for I know people go, "Oh, you encroach into uh, socialism or communism." I'm like, no, no, no. We're supposed to be a first world nation. We're supposed to be better. We should be able to provide certain, at least simple base things for people. A simple place to live. Basic stuff. But then you still give back. But I think the biggest issue is now that people don't want to give back 40 hours a work week, or 50 hours a work week when everything is taken from them. Like, you give people welfare, but if you work a little bit, the welfare goes. And then they end up with less money, and then they don't have a home. So you got working people who are homeless. You got people out there living in their cars, living in little trailers. You had people working at Facebook, living in a moving van. You have people in Facebook living in pods, sleeping pods inside the place because they cannot afford. You got people in California who park their cars in these parking lots where they pay like $10 a night or whatever because they can't afford a place to live because there's $1 million trailers. All I'm saying is we need to get to a way that we can provide for the American citizens at least basic needs. There's empty buildings everywhere. I work in a building that almost half the building is giantly empty, and there's enough for people. I mean, people are freaking out about them cloning food, but they can clone food. They can create new stuff. There's new medicines and new things out there. We need to get to a better future where we are working less, having more, and having a better life. So we can sit back and watch Netflix all day and consume or whatever we want to do. Um, but we still work. We're always going to have to work. Even if the AI does some stuff, we're still going to have to work. I don't see us turning into a Wall-E type situation where a fat person in a chair, because at the end of the day, how did that ship fly around for 500 years with a few robots doing things? Yeah, no. Somebody's going to have to work in there to do stuff. I don't know how many robots you put in there. There's certain things that a human's going to have to do at the end of the day. Robot's not going to be able to milk your baby, and have baby no matter what.
Right. No, I hear you, man. I hear you. Peter, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can get involved.
Yeah, you can go to peterboykin.com and check out the website, and everything's on there, and my social media is there, and I have like the card in there. And basically, I'm on all over the internet, Rumble and YouTube and TikTok. You know, that evil TikTok that everybody complains about. Instagram, uh, Facebook, Twitter, or X, or whatever they call it now. The only thing I don't think I really do is Snapchat or Well, no, I did Instagram. Snapchat. I don't really do Snapchat because that's just one. There's just so many out there to do nowadays. Telegram. I'm on Telegram. I'm pretty much everywhere I can be out there. And again, some of my candidates that I run against, they'll say, "Well, I'm in all the 100 counties, and I did the personal touch," and I'm like, "This is 2023. You can get in touch with me virtually on the phone. My phone number's out there. My email address is out there. I'm online. And if you really do need to see me face to face, then hey, contact me. We'll talk, and then I'll come see you." But I don't think that we need to travel all 100 counties. I don't believe that a political campaign needs to cost millions of dollars. I'm literally running my campaign on hundreds of dollars. You know, not thousands, not any donors. I'm not beholden to donors. I'm not beholden to corporations. I'm beholden to me getting up out of bed, going to work, doing some extra work to make some extra money to get the promotion out. And, you know, it starts with peterboykin.com. I mean, I could always take people's money and donations, but if you're in North Carolina, what I would like is people to volunteer. And that's pretty much what I really need is just volunteers. Because I'm about to hit door to door, and I'm trying to hit 100,000 doors by myself. But I'm hoping that I'll get some volunteers involved to help me, you know, make sure I get to everywhere. And we're going to door in the winter. That's the way that the primaries work. God knows why.
Amen, man. Well, keep up the great work. Let's talk soon. I'm rooting for you, man. Good stuff. Good stuff. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. Peace.
Absolutely. We'll be right back. Everybody stay with us. Rory Sauter and the news.